Good afternoon. You're all very welcome. This webinar has been organized as part of the Sound Control project for anybody who may not have heard about it. This is a cost action that brings together a wide range of stakeholders, but a lot of people working in surveillance systems and epidemiologists and people with other skills from different countries to discuss the requirements and demands for an output-based control measures for cattle diseases. So this webinar was part of the Sound Control First Training School, which has taken place Monday and Tuesday of this week. And Marisa was our invite speaker for the end, the evaluation of surveillance systems. And since the COVID-19 has hindered our plans of meeting face-to-face, and we were going to have this session online, we thought it was very interesting and we could open this up to other people who might be interested in evaluation of surveillance systems. In terms of the webinar, we will ask you to have to be muted and preferably your camera off while the presentation is going, so there are no interferences. There will be question and answer sessions afterwards, but we're happy to receive your questions as we go along, so please put them in the chat. And I'll introduce Marisa, because we're delighted to have her. She has a wealth of experience. Marisa Pérez is an epidemiologist specialized in the evaluation of surveillance and control programs in animal health. She is currently the Deputy Director of ASTRE, the Integrated Health Research Unit in CIRAD. This is the French Agricultural Research Center for International Development. Marisa has worked for the past 15 years on the evaluation of animal health surveillance and control, both in developed and in developing countries, especially for emerging zoonotic risks such as animal influenza, Ebola, and MERS-CoV, and on the strengthening of public-private partnerships. She provides expertise for international organizations such as the OIE, FAO, World Bank, GovNet. Her key expertise is on design and evaluation of health systems, surveillance and control, including wildlife and integrated surveillance systems, animal health economics, participatory epidemiology, and public-private partnership. Marisa, over to you.
Well, thank you very much. So I will share my presentation now. It's my great pleasure to be here today and to talk to you about evaluation of health surveillance. So this is going to be an introduction. And please, as Maria said, don't hesitate to ask me questions as we go along. So if you cannot see my presentation, let me know.
You can see it, Marisa.
Okay, good. I will try to move through the slides. Okay, so I will give you a brief introduction of what is evaluation in general, and then we will talk about why do we need to evaluate surveillance systems. Then I will describe you the different types of evaluation, and we will go through the process also of evaluation, which includes planning, implementation, and reporting. And we will conclude and talk about challenges and best practices. So what is evaluation? So it is important to really have a good definition and idea of what it is, because it has to be systematic, and it's about looking at the merits, worth, and significance of some object that you are evaluating. And this is done according to a set of standards, but we will talk about that again. Set of standards doesn't always mean that it has to be international reference standards. It could be standards that you set up according to your own situation and context. The other important element is that evaluation is there to help you. So it is supposed to assess any project that is implementing or any alternative to different strategies, for example, control or surveillance, to help in decision making. So the idea is really to measure the degree of achievement or the value of each solution that you can choose, or each strategy, according to your objective and the result of what you're expecting or what it has achieved, and try to make a judgment value about it. Then the next important, which is the most important thing for me about evaluation, is that not only you will do an evaluation to understand how your system works and what is its performance, but the whole idea of it is the process itself of doing the evaluation, which enable reflection. So you can think about what you're doing and also trying to identify future changes that you need to make to improve it. So I will here show you some information on what is the difference or the connection between evaluation, assessment, and monitoring. So as we've seen, evaluation is the systematic determination of a merit of something, its worth and significance according to a set of standards. And an assessment is the action of collecting data and analyzing those data according to a defined indicator. So basically, an assessment is part of an evaluation process. So you will need, for example, to assess the sensitivity of your surveillance system to be able to conclude if it's performing well or not. And monitoring is the continuous data collection and assessment of defined indicators. So basically, monitoring is also an important element for evaluation and assessment because it will provide the data to be able to perform this evaluation. Here I will give you the specific definition of the evaluation of animal or health surveillance in general that we produced during a EU project in 2015, because it is important that when you are actually implementing your evaluation, you define exactly the definition of your project according to the topic of evaluation. So when it's done to evaluating surveillance systems, so it is about determination of the merit of a surveillance system or component by confronting the results of the assessment according to standard targets, criteria, or a counterfactual system. So as I said, you can measure if, for example, if the sensitivity of your system is meeting a specific target, or if you have two different strategy or component in your system, if they are reaching the same level of sensitivity as well. Of course, this process shall be transparent, objective, and evidence-based, and we will come back to that. The outcome of an evaluation is a judgment and a recommendation. If you only measure, assess a criteria in your system, if you assess, for example, the performance of your system, and you provide the result, this is a technical assessment. If you assess the performance of your system and you make a judgment on the value of this system, if it's working well or not, this is an evaluation. And it is very important because that's the difference between evaluation and technical assessment. Of course, this recommendation has to be placed in the overall context of the surveillance which you are evaluating, which means that there is specific issues that could be linked to political, sociological, or epidemiological contexts. So when you actually assessing if the system works according to its local needs. An evaluation can be performed at any development stage of the system, and ideally it has to be performed at regular intervals. And the other element of it is, so the evaluation doesn't need to be always comprehensive. You don't need to evaluate your entire system all the time. You might want to target the evaluation to specific component of the system or to look at specific attributes, as I said, like sensitivity, specificity, timeliness, according to your needs, and that will depend on your evaluation question. So now, if we go back to the topic of the evaluation, so why do we need to evaluate animal health surveillance? So we all know that we live in a world where there is a risk of emerging diseases, and that there is specific hotspots from wildlife, from domestic animal, drug resistance, from vector-borne diseases. And these hotspots the way the hotspots are being defined is based on the data that we are collecting according to the different diseases that are circulating, so based also on the output of the surveillance systems. So if you mix this risk with the connected world, we end up in the COVID pandemic that we are living right now. So we had a lot of pandemic threat and risk before, and even a pandemic that happened before that for each of the flu emergence. But we had the SARS in 2003, then we had the H1N1 pandemic, the spread of Ebola, and now the COVID pandemics. So we really need to be able to better detect diseases when they are start spreading to be able to prevent this risk of disease spread worldwide. So if we go back to this map, I just want to highlight some things. So this is the map, that's the hotspot risk map that was produced by EcoHealth in 2008. And they've done a revised version, an updated version very recently, which is the one at the bottom. And you can see the difference is that if you have a look at Latin America and Central America, you can see that the risk from emerging diseases from domestic animals was was in existence in the original map, and it has been increased in the new map. I want to show you that because this exactly show the importance of evaluating surveillance, because those maps are made based on the data that you gather when you do your surveillance activities. And based on this data, you will actually implement actions and you will infer epidemiological results. And so if the quality of the data that you are using to make those maps will also have an impact on how you're going to implement your surveillance, because you're going to define your risk zone and increase your surveillance and control in the area where you would have identified more risk. So it is very important to evaluate the quality of the data produced by the systems and the system itself to make sure that you are using the right information to be able to implement your health strategies. Of course, then we have also the issue of the general context. So we need to strengthen the surveillance of the emerging diseases, but also the transboundary animal diseases. We have the issue of resources and priorities between the North and the South. So we need to define priorities. And this is the other thing that evaluation can help you to do, is to define priorities on where and when and how to improve surveillance systems. Just to recap, so why do we do surveillance? So you all know that we do surveillance to early detect disease, to prove freedom from disease, or to detect cases for control, and to be able to assess the effectiveness of the control measures. Of course, the issue in that is that so this is the disease the iceberg model of the disease. So we know that we've got the disease that we see, the ones that are reported, and we need to understand what is the level of disease that we don't see. So we do surveillance to be able to see the size of the real iceberg. So of course, we've got the passive or scan surveillance, which is giving you information on what is reported, and you can implement active surveillance activities to better understand what is the burden of the disease. So we do evaluation to be able to increase the sensitivity, so to be able to assess the efficacy of the different surveillance components and to be able to improve them so you can understand better what is the burden of the disease. You need resources for that. The more you implement active surveillance, the more resources you need. And of course, often this is inversely correlated with acceptability, because the more you have to implement activities, if they are not defined with the people that are implementing them, they might not be accepted and implemented. So the other challenge that we have in surveillance is that it's a complex system. It's a complex system which is influenced by many drivers, which are social, economical, political, epidemiological. And it's also a system of factors, because surveillance is a network of people that are talking together. And the priorities that are defined for the surveillance systems can be very different from international level to national and local level. And of course, the information that is being shared will depend also on the will and the connection of all these people together. And often this is influenced by the local networks, which people are embedded in their social communities and their community of interest. And so the information may be shared differently according to the networks. All this issue in surveillance is influenced on the way we are making decisions. So to share information, we will do it based on our experience, our knowledge, advice from experts, beliefs and fears, but also on trust. So you need to trust people to communicate together based on impact and based on our network and interest network and social network. So this is all important because this is the kind of thing that will affect the performance of the sharing of information, which is the basics of the surveillance system. And this is what we will need to take into consideration in any evaluation. Of course, on top of that, so you take decision according to your cultural knowledge, background, and experience, but also according to what you see and what you conceive. So I'm going to ask you to look at this picture. We're going to do a little interactive exercise right now. And you're going to tell me how old is the lady on this picture. So you should see a poll that will come up. I don't know if you can see the lady still. Okay, great. So I don't know if many of you have already seen this this drawing, but it's very interesting to discuss this concept of perception. Okay, so we've got some people that see a young lady, some people that see an old lady, and some that don't see any lady at all. So we've got more people seeing an old, younger lady than an old lady, but it doesn't really matter. What is important is that on this picture there is two ladies actually. So there is a young lady and there is an old lady. So usually when we do that, and I am in front of people, I can show you the one that can't see the young, I can show them where is the old and vice versa. It will be more difficult there, but you can try later on to see the other lady. My point in this little exercise is to emphasize the fact that nobody is right and there is no right answer because there is a boss lady on the picture. So it depends on how you see it and it depends on your perception. And so what is important to get from this message is that when you go out in the field and you talk to an owner, an animal owner or breeder about the reason why they don't share health information or they don't report disease, it doesn't matter if they're right or wrong. What matters is why, and what is their rationale and what is the reason why they would not report a specific disease. And often the reason why they don't do it makes sense to them. And even if it doesn't make sense as a very like sound epidemiological perspective, they have a good reason to do it and they think they're right. And so the only way to be able to understand better how that works, to be able to improve the system, is to take this into consideration. So to understand their perception and to understand their local constraints. How do I get rid of this now? Okay. So to illustrate that a little bit more, so not only you've got the individual person perception, which the individual person which is part of this surveillance system, but we also have different perception according to the cost and benefits at different point of view. So the state will have specific needs and will be expecting some specific things from a surveillance system, which means to avoid losses, and it will bear some specific cost linked to the surveillance and the control measure. The farmer or the household, as we've said, so he will also see his private benefits in surveillance, but he will also have private costs, which might not only be linked to specific financial costs, but there might be some social impact. And we've seen a lot in the field that if a farmer is reporting the disease, the first one, it might be stigmatized by the rest of his community because it will bring issues to the communities. And there is also some transaction costs because when a disease is reported, then often the prices of the animals drops because everybody wants to sell them quickly in some area. And even the ones that are not affected might be impacted by the loss of prices. And then in between that, you also have the societal point of view where, which bears its own social benefits and social cost. And of course, everything is linked together. So if we go back to the initial question on why do we need to evaluate health surveillance systems, so it is important to be able to plan a system, to redesign it, to see if it works and to improve it, to ensure that what you're doing is reaching the objective, but also to take the right corrective action and more importantly, to make changes and changes according to the different perception of the people that are working in the system and changes that you know that are going to be adopted, accepted and implemented. As I've shown before, it's very important to evaluate, to demonstrate the quality of the data generated and to make sure that any epidemiological conclusion or strategy, health control strategy that you're going to make are sound because based on data which are of good enough quality. And of course, evaluation of the surveillance system will ensure the effectiveness of the actions, and you can also use it to advocate for funds and to ensure trust of the different people that are making the system, which are a set of privates, all the producers that are involved in the issue, and public actors with all the governments and the veterinary system parts. So again, just to emphasize those two aspects, so we need to evaluate the surveillance to guarantee quality of the data, but also to be able to select the most cost-effective program because we know that resources are limited, and so we need to make sure that the resources we're using are to the best. So to be able to do that, we can use different types of evaluation, and again, according to your objectives, you will choose different types. So if you want to assess the performance, you will only look at technicals. If you want to be able to ensure that the resources are well used, you will look at economical evaluation. And of course, you can take into consideration the social issues and the politics. What is very important is the timing and the scale of the evaluation. So in terms of timing, you can evaluate before any surveillance is in place to make sure that what you're going to do is the best thing you can do. So this is the ex-ante evaluation. You can evaluate during the implementation of a program to make correction. This is the in-itinerary evaluation. And of course, you can evaluate when the program is finished to be able to reflect on what has been done and draw a lesson to inform the next programs, surveillance programs. As I said, so you can do different type or level of evaluation, and the more methods you're going to use, the more complex the evaluation will be, but the more informative it will be as well. So we are really promoting a comprehensive approach to evaluation, which includes looking at the technical part, the effectiveness. So is my system or component working? Looking at the technical performances of the system, but also to try to understand why. If you have some limits in the performances, you need to understand what is influencing these performances within the process. And so you need to look at social science methodology to be able to do that. And you also need to understand what is the value of your system and is it the most relevant and the most efficient. And this is why you need to use some economical methods, and this is the more comprehensive evaluation that you can make to be able to influence the decision in the best possible way. I just want to emphasize the added value of a comprehensive evaluation, and especially when taking into consideration the social aspect and the perception of the actors. and using participatory approaches, because then you ensure that you get not only a better understanding of the system, but also the people that are performing the evaluation with you, so the people that are doing the system. And you also ensure that you will be able to make recommendations which are valid and link back to the context. And as I said, so you involve directly the participants and the people that are part of the system in the evaluation process, and that could be farmers, but that could also be decision makers. So they can, they will identify themselves their locking points, and so not only they will implement better the solution they would have come up with you during the evaluation, but they will also accept the process of the evaluation much better, and it will improve the feeling of belonging in the system. And of course, when you do that, you also get in the indirect advantages. So you might get information that you were not expected, which are linked to the general context and external factor that can affect the performances of your system. So you can refer to a study that we have done with the FLI some years ago about the acceptability of hunters to take part of the surveillance system of CSF in Germany, to get some more information on that. So I would like to raise one warning there, because of course it is very important and interesting to take all this into consideration. But evaluation comes also with a cost, so you need time to be able to do that. You need human resources, you need to collect data, and you need financial resources as well. So what is really important is that the scale of the evaluation needs to be defined according to what you need, according to what is your question and what is the people in the system or the decision maker needs to be able to answer this question. So one of the most important things to start with an evaluation is to frame the process and to first ask the right question on what do you need and why are you doing the evaluation for. And that could be more than one question, and you can answer the question each one at the time. But it is important to take that into consideration. Just a few words on evaluation frameworks. So we've done a review a few years ago to try to understand which kind of guidance were existing out there in animal health and public health. So there was no comprehensive guidelines at the time on how to perform a comprehensive evaluation of animal health and even public health. It was based really on empirical data. So during the framework of the European project called RiskSOR, we have developed this framework for integrated evaluation, which is called SERVTools. That provides guidance to the evaluation process, including economic evaluation, but also a toolkit on how to perform the evaluation with a reference platform on methods and tools and innovations to be used, and also guidelines on how to provide information on the feasibility of the evaluation itself. So you can have a look at this framework for reference if you are willing to start an evaluation yourself. So basically, and of course, this provides strengths and limits of the evaluation as well. So the way the tool works is that you need first to define your context. So ask yourself, what is your situation and what is the system you are evaluating and what are your needs, which will help you to define your evaluation question. And then according to the context and the evaluation question, you will be able to identify what you need to evaluate, the evaluation attribute, and which methods to use. And I will show you more about that in a minute. So there is 3 main steps in an evaluation process, which is the planning, the implementation, and the reporting. So planning is very important to be able to do all the things that we have just mentioned. So taking into consideration the context, framing the evaluation and the question to be able to identify the right methods and according to the budget and the cost limitation you might have as well. So in terms of planning, so you need first of course to engage with the people that are requesting the evaluation. You need to clearly define the objects of the evaluation and anticipate on the changes that might be needed and the potential result that might create an issue. And for example, you can think about acceptability, that could be an issue. And then based on all this, you need to define your evaluation question, as I said. You need to define what you're going to compare your result with. Is it two different strategies, or is it what is being happening now to something that you want to change, etc., to be able to make a judgment value. So either setting your own standards to meet based on the situation, or looking at reference standards set by the European Union, for example, or the OIE. And then based on that, you can select the attributes that you're going to take into consideration in your evaluation program. So there is 4 categories of evaluation attributes. I will go through this quickly because you can go back to that for reference in the SURF-Tool framework. So there is the organizational attributes, which will allow you to assess the structure and the general process of the surveillance, which will affect the function, the effectiveness, and the value. So this is the why, this is the process evaluation. So you will look at all this. So this could be, for example, the internal communication, the quality assurance, the organizational management, etc. Then the other categories are the functional attributes, which will also assess affect the performance of your system. So it's about how the system works. And that includes, for example, its simplicity, flexibility, and the fact that it's using historical data or not, etc. Then you've got the effectiveness attributes, which are really looking at the performance of the system. So this is really the technical evaluation I was mentioning earlier. So you can look at the coverage, the false alarm rate, the precision, timeliness, sensitivity, etc. And the last category is about the value attributes, which is going to look at the value and the economical value of the system. So that is for the more comprehensive evaluation level that you can do. And that will look at the cost and the benefits, the optimal economic efficiency, for example, or the least cost choice when you're comparing 2 strategies and you're going to choose at similar performance, the one that is the less costly, for example. So then you will need to define your evaluation work plan. So often what you need to start with is to do a descriptive analysis of your system. So what we call a system mapping. And you can compare a current situation with novel design by drawing 2 different system maps according to that. Then you need, when you've analyzed and described your system, you need to assess the evaluation attributes that you have selected. So if you use the framework that we have developed online, it will help you to choose which attributes according to which question and which objective of the surveillance that you need to select. So you will have this list of attributes. And for each attribute, you will need to use an assessment method. For example, for sensitivity, you can do a simulation modeling or capture-recapture analysis to be able to measure it. You might need to collect additional data. And as I just mentioned, you might need to develop simulation models if required. So when you have done this assessment, then you will use the result to address the evaluation question. And it will be either by comparing 2 systems or by inferring on the economic value of the system itself. So looking at its cost benefit or cost effectiveness, for example. Then you make a synthesis of the result and you will report the evaluation output. So this is an example, a simple example of an evaluation work plan. So that is part of the design and the planning. So then you will implement this work plan. And that means that you're going to describe, measure, and analyze. And just to give you an example, so this is an example of system mapping, where you've got all the actors that are being represented and the relationships between this actor, the actions and activity. And you can also use other type of tools to be able to map the network. You can look at social network analysis to see how the different actors of the system are connected and how they talk to each other about a specific health issue. So this is an example of the swine health surveillance networks in Vietnam. Then just to give you an example on assessing the evaluation attributes, so you can have, like, for example, 4 different scenarios here, and you've measured acceptability, timeliness, and sensitivity, and you are comparing the 4 scenarios according to the 3 different attributes. And then you will address the evaluation question, and sometimes it's not that easy because, for example, in this example, the question will be which component gives the best performance. So this is the same scenario as I was showing you. And if you look at the one that gives the higher sensitivity and it's giving it's the quickest and it's the most acceptable. So this is a very easy example. But if this scenario was not acceptable at all, then it would be more difficult to conclude, and it would be important to look at scenario number 2 in terms of performances to see if it's more accepted and acceptable and to understand the reason why. And you can ask yourself also on the added value of having a plus 7% more sensitivity, because the different scenarios might incur and different costs. And so it is important to be able to address this question. So then you need to report. That is the last part of the evaluation, but it is very important because the way you're making your reporting and addressing the evaluation question and making your recommendation will influence the implementation of your recommendation and the changes that could be implemented according to your work. So this needs to be done also in collaboration with the decision makers that have requested the evaluation in the first place. So I just want to emphasize that evaluation of surveillance is part of the surveillance design evaluation cycle. So the idea is that when you have performed an evaluation, you can make priority in corrective action that you want to implement. Then you plan them, you implement them in the surveillance, and then you can reevaluate them and monitor the performance as you go along. So it is very important. It is part of a design evaluation cycle. So just to summarize before I can take any of your questions. So this webinar on introduction to the evaluation of animal surveillance just was also there to show you the most important aspects which are critical in the process. And the main one is that you are performing an evaluation to advocate for changes. Of course, you want to advocate for the best possible changes that will make a difference. And for that, you need to have a well-defined evaluation question. You have to have a specific objective, and I've mentioned that many times. You need, of course, to adapt everything to the context in which you are working, so to the specific context under the evaluation which is performed. You need to ensure the participation and the involvement of the right stakeholders, and that includes not only the people requesting the evaluation, the decision makers, but also the beneficiaries of any of the changes that you might implement or recommend to implement. Then you need to ensure that the approach, the method that you are using is relevant to the needs of the evaluation. You don't need to evaluate everything and to measure everything. You just need to measure what you need to be able to address your questions. You need to define an appropriate timing and method for evaluation before you start implementing it. And another thing that I haven't mentioned yet, but which is very important, is the ethics. So any evaluation is bound by the best evaluator practices, and which is bound to a specific ethics, which will ensure its objectiveness and transparency of the evaluation, which I mentioned earlier, which is very important because you are making a judgment value which should be based on evidence and should be objective and not based on any conflict of interest or any other issue that might arise. So if you want more information on that, so you can look at this website. But briefly, what is important is that you follow the principle of the systematic inquiry. So that means that you need to look at what is the best, highest technical standard. You need to explore the strengths and shortcomings of the questions of the evaluation and approaches. You might be asked by a decision maker a specific evaluation question, which is not relevant to the situation, and you have the right to challenge this as an evaluator. And of course, it is important to be able to communicate not only the approach and the method, but the limitation that you have in the method that you are using, because it's influenced the recommendation. Of course, you need to have the appropriate competencies to be able to do that. Respect of the different contexts that you're working with is highly important. You have a responsibility because the recommendation that you're making will influence the lives of some people, and also to ensure that the evaluation is made in the most objective way and is also representative of the needs and constraints of the people that will be impacted by any of the outcomes of the evaluation. And of course, there is a need for integrity and honesty, which involves impartiality, independence, and transparency. Independence is about no conflict of interest. Impartiality, it's about being inclusive, so making sure that all the stakeholders are considered and making links between the findings and the recommendation. And transparency, making sure that everything you do is that everybody is aware of, all the stakeholders are aware of the process itself, its aim and details. And there is one last thing in the evaluator guiding principle is that it's also important to take into account general and public interest. That means that you need to make sure that you have the relevant stakeholders. You need to balance your request based on the impact on the people that are under part of the evaluation process. You need to also think about the hypothesis that you're making and the potential side effects of any of the limitation of your evaluation. And the result needs to be presented in an understandable format so that everybody can understand it, and all the people that are being impacted by it especially. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for having followed this, this presentation, and I will be happy to take any questions.